So recently we've been getting into a lot of discussion surrounding the topic of neck dive when it comes to electric guitars. Now, for me, I've always put a heavy focus on comfort and ergonomics with a lot of these different gear related topics. Some people, I think, are perhaps more or less aware when it comes to balance when looking at different types of guitars. However, some of us do find that it is a little bit more important or perhaps more of a priority to focus on the comfort side of things when shopping guitars, right? We're spending a lot of our hard-earned money on some oftentimes very expensive gear. And especially when we're ordering something custom, I don't think it's out of the question to have some choice or say in if the guitar is going to balance or not. Now, one of the counter arguments that I'm starting to see pop up here on these YouTube topics, I'm starting to hear guys say things like neck dive doesn't exist, or neck dive is a myth, or it takes two hands to play a guitar. They're basically presenting the case that all guitars potentially neck dive and no guitar balances.
They're all going to do that if you're not holding it any way whatsoever.
So I want to go ahead and take some time to clear that up. Hopefully by the end of the video, we can come to some better understanding. And you know what? Maybe you guys will agree, maybe you will disagree, but let's have a productive conversation. So to start off, let's basically define neck dive. Now, this is my particular definition. If you have a different definition, then that's okay. You know, we don't have to agree, but I'm here to present to you my perspective because this is, of course, my channel. The way I would define neck dive is essentially if I grab an instrument and you put your guitar in a playing position and you find that there is what I would describe as like an excessive amount of resistance or effort required to prop up the neck of the guitar to prevent it from sinking downward or moving away from you. Good example of a guitar that's notorious for neck dive would be like a Gibson SG shape. You can just go ahead and hop on and do a quick Google search. I mean, just look up SG neck dive, right? So the fact that that's a thing and there's so many discussions, so many topics surrounding it, there's so many YouTube tutorials that are showing solutions as far as how to fix SG neck dive, I would think that would be enough just to establish the fact that neck dive does exist for one. But again, maybe it just depends on your perspective. Any situation where you find yourself just constantly fighting just to prop up that neck, I think this is going to be less than desirable when it comes to comfort and ergonomics for these guitars. Now, having bought and sold many guitars over the years, having tried a lot of different things, I've really started to kind of learn what I like and what I don't like. And I'll provide another example here. Oftentimes you do get some neck dive when you have baritone guitars, especially when you have a combination of lightweight body woods with heavier neck woods. I talked about this on that Schecter, that John Brown, that Tau signature model, especially on the 8 strings. Like I talked about in that particular discussion, you have a super lightweight Swamp Ash, you have a Wenge Padauk neck, which some of you guys may not know. A lot of those exotic woods are extremely heavy, they're extremely dense, so you have a very light body wood with a very heavy neck wood. You've got more strings, so you've got a wider neck, which is going to add more bulk, more heft, and then you have the additional weight of more locking tuners. So that's just essentially going to be a recipe for neck dive. We'll look at the comments here on the video. You can see a lot of people chiming in, finding similar experiences. Another baritone I used to have many years ago was actually my first baritone, which was a PRS SC Mike Mashock baritone, which was a pretty cool guitar for its time. 27.7-inch scale. It was a nice baritone overall. However, being that it had the combination of a super lightweight body wood with a very hefty, wide, fat neck profile, it's obviously a lot longer being a baritone. So yeah, you're just constantly fighting whether you're sitting, standing, with a strap, without a strap. So just one more example of certain instances where these guitars are not optimized for balance. So I think it's fair to say neck dive, in fact, does exist. All right, so I want to address the issues with the Kiesel Kyber guitar. Now, I'm always a fan of Kiesel guitars. I've had many over the years. I would say generally very positive experiences with the brand. They make some really cool stuff. One thing I have noticed on this channel, anytime I speak positively about Kiesel as a brand, oftentimes we get a lot of people coming in just very quick to point fingers, making a lot of like negative hate comments. And look, I understand your frustration. Maybe you had a bad experience. Maybe you had a situation where your expectations were not met. I can't speak for them. I'm just an everyday casual gear enthusiast. I'm not affiliated with the brand in any way, shape, or form. I'm a regular paying customer, just like most of you guys. So just take that into consideration. But I want to address the specifics on the Kyber. I think the Kyber is an amazing guitar. In my review, I did find there was a couple things as far as the design, which I was not particularly a huge fan of. I do have a lot of positives to say about the guitar. Looks great, sounds great. Does have a lot of super nice high-end features, appointments, all that good stuff. But I do feel like one area where it did fall short was on the balance. If you go back and look at that promotional video introducing the Kyber, that was one of the biggest talking points about the actual design and focus of that guitar was, comfort, balance, ergonomics, whether you're sitting, standing, classical, right leg, left leg, whatever the case may be. The expectation was it was a guitar that is supposed to balance pretty well.
So when you sit down, it's comfortable in all playing positions, but this just ends up sitting just totally right in your lap, just like that. You have one leg propped up, guitar just sits there. You could hang out all day long. You got your remote.
Now, in the video, I did a couple examples where I tried the guitar, on the dominant side. I tried on the classical side. I tried it sitting, standing. I tried it both with and without a strap. And I had concluded based on my firsthand experience that I felt like the guitar balanced extremely well with the strap. However, without the strap, just because of the super, super thin, lightweight body and the mass of locking tuners, it did tend to tilt away. I tried it a couple different positions and I just found that I did personally find it to be a bit uncomfortable just having to prop that neck up.
Now, I've noticed that when you play it in your lap, there's a little bit of a neck dive. We'll just go over that. In your lap, if you put it forward, like here, you can see you get a little bit of nose dive, which is where I usually have it. So you let go, you get a little bit of that.
I did have higher expectations as far as like the comfort and the balance, like minus the strap. Again, if you have a strap, I think you're going to be totally fine. No complaints there. But as I said in the video, if you just walk up to your guitar rack, grab something, sit down, just kind of chilling on the couch, or maybe, some kind of office chair, something like that. I just found that the guitar didn't really quite sit comfortably like in the lap as I expected that it would. Now, I did see a little bit of backlash in the comment section with this. I did see some people even take the time out of their day to post some video responses addressing my particular review of the Kyber. And I find this to be a little strange just because I really have never found myself to be super concerned with what a stranger on the internet thinks about their own personal review of their guitar that they paid for. So, it's just sometimes the internet can be a strange place. But one of the counterpoints that I'm starting to hear from people is, well, just because it's a thin-bodied guitar that automatically we should expect that it's not going to balance well. And I think this is just absolute nonsense. First and foremost, let's go back. Let's look at the product description from Kiesel. Let's go back and look at the introductory video from Kiesel. And you can see these things were talked about in terms of features and benefits which lend themselves to a comfortable, ergonomic, well-balanced guitar, whether it be in the sitting or standing position. The other thing I want to talk about in response to that is look at the counterpoint I made with the OD Venus, another high-end boutique guitar. This is also a thin-bodied Swamp Ash guitar. They actually use a 1.5-inch thick body, which is quite considerably thinner than most average solid body electric guitars. And this guitar is also a baritone guitar, so it's got that longer scale length. You can see even with the Swamp Ash thin body, sitting down, standing, it balances perfectly. So I think for, again, a lot of the people out there, they're saying, oh, it's a thin body guitar. Why would you ever expect it to balance? Well, it doesn't mean that it's going to be the case with all guitars. I've noticed some similar counterpoints, people using the argument that, well, just because, say, a guitar is a baritone, that it's not going to balance. Well, once again, yes, there are a lot of scenarios, as I've described, like, with the PRS, SE baritone, that, yeah, they're not going to balance well. And I've also addressed the fact that sometimes you do have specific combinations where you can have a baritone, and sometimes you can still achieve a pretty good balance. Take a look at the example with the Jackson Roman signature baritone. So here we have a 6-string baritone, 27-inch scale. We have a lightweight Swamp Ash body. We have locking tuners, but as you guys can see in the video, this guitar actually balances quite well in the seated position without a strap. So a lot of this has to do with the fact that that guitar has a very, very, very thin neck, whereas something like that SE baritone, it's got that massive, chunky, that wide, fat PRS baseball bat neck, right? So those are just other contributing factors that go into the design of these guitars, which can determine a favorable or unfavorable outcome when it comes to balance. So just going full circle, I know there's a lot of information. Some of it, you know what? It may come down to your personal preference. Some of you guys may agree or disagree. It's all good. We can still be friends, hopefully at the end of the day. But my position here, I want to share my experiences, my ownership of these different instruments to help provide you guys some relevant information just in case you're trying to figure out the decision as far as what gear is best for you. In conclusion, I would say, look, we just have to face the fact that neck dive does exist. Yes, it takes two hands to play a guitar. We should also make the observation that playing the guitar is only part of what I would describe as operating the guitar. Look, let's say I'm sitting down at this desk and I'm trying to work on a recording or something, right? Maybe I'm trying to learn a new song where I'm watching a playthrough, or maybe I'm looking at some tabs or firing up Songster or something like that. And I might be playing something, pause, look at my tabs, or maybe I'm, start recording something where I'm holding and operating the guitar, but I'm stopping and starting as far as playing. Does that kind of make sense? So let's just say I'm sitting at my desk in a casual situation, just, chugging, riffing away, whatever. Maybe I'm learning a song, recording, I'm like pausing, stopping, starting, right? I just let go, right? This guitar bounces well. Look, I'm hands-free. The guitar is not moving. I don't have any discomfort or frustrations, right? But like, if you're sitting here, right, and maybe you're just, doing something on your keyboard or mouse, and you're just constantly, you have to, hold it, or like you have to keep your right arm against the body to prevent it from moving. Maybe, it doesn't bounce well, or like the Kyber, for example, where it's swinging back, bam, it just hit like your chair or something next to your desk, and it just like dings your headstock. You know what I'm saying? So like these things do matter. In my opinion, I think they do matter. I will say again, there is just something I have to appreciate about a guitar that just sits naturally against your body without tilting away, diving in any way, shape, or form. It's just like a perfect equilibrium when it comes to your gear. So those are my overall thoughts. Leave your comments in the comments section down below. Look, let's have a productive conversation whether you agree or disagree. Appreciate your feedback. Thank you guys so much for watching. Be sure to hit the video with a thumbs up, subscribe for more, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Have a great day.